I know it's going to be a rough one. How do I know that it's going to be a rough one? Well, number one, it's 2:30 in the morning. But number two, it's a Jimmy Dore video. And number three, it's Jimmy Dore and Matt Walsh talking about, am I racist? Here we go. But we have to wait for the ad to play, I'm sorry. There we go.
Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Duluth, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, Los Angeles, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank.
Now, I will do you all the favor of skipping him gushing over the trailer, and we'll go right to this.
And that was, I just want to say that was a great way to expose that. And in fact, in parts of the movie, there were, just regular people saying that you were racist as that character.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, take it where you want.
Can you believe it? Some people are saying you're racist, Matt Walsh. Where would they ever get such a crazy idea?
What?
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right. And what you find is that normal, everyday people, especially if they kind of exist outside of this DEI bubble, they haven't been exposed to corporate HR brainwashing sessions. If they're outside of that, then, especially in modern America, your kind of default position is, you notice when people are when someone's of a different race, but it's not a big deal. You don't focus on it that much. You're not sitting around worrying, oh my gosh, am I racist? Am I being you're not thinking about that. And I think that's the default position of most normal people, which is what we find, as you point out, go to the biker bar, even though, going to a biker bar, it's a bunch of white guys, Confederate flags hanging on the walls and everything. And yeah, if you listen to corporate media, you would expect if you listen to them to walk in and hear nothing but just like vicious racism. Not what you hear at all. In fact, we immediately go from there to, the black community in a very poor part of New Orleans and ask all the same kinds of questions. And we get almost like verbatim answers. In fact, in both places, I heard this, we all bleed the same color. That was kind of like their reflex line. And which is basically the Martin Luther King idea of, judge someone by the content of their character. And then you compare that to, we saw in the trailer, talking to one of these anti-racist so-called experts. And I brought up to her, well, didn't Martin Luther King say, judge him by the content of your character? And she said, well, Martin Luther King said a lot of stuff. And then she went on to talk about basically why he's wrong. So, which is interesting. What that tells us is like you've got these kind of grifter types, and they I think notice that the default position for most people is to not care that much about this stuff. That worries them because if you don't care, then that's less money and power and influence for them. So their whole job is to get you to care about this and to get you to focus on it, and to make race an issue when otherwise it wouldn't be. That's the whole scam.
So no, I just want.
Yeah, no one would be racist if it weren't for these DEI folks. These DEI folks are making the racism.
I'd like to get your opinion where all this comes from, because everybody thought, in fact, polls showed this and research showed this, that people thought that racism in America was declining and we were in a better place than we ever were. We elected Barack Obama overwhelmingly twice, a black.
Yes, we elected Barack Obama twice. Racism was defeated. Jimmy Dore, someone on Twitter, one of Jimmy Dore's fans on Twitter told me the other day, Jimmy Dore is to the left of you on all issues. He's literally sitting in front of a Daily Wire Plus video, interviewing Matt Walsh, and essentially giving him just the sloppiest blowjob he's ever experienced.
Black guy with a Muslim name twice. And then all of a sudden, people have...
With a Muslim name. With a Muslim name.
Alt plus F4 Matt Walsh and Dimmy Derp 2.
It's me, Airbnb Abortion. Thank you for the tier 1 sub, and that gets us one sub closer to skipping this.
also noticed this, that then the mainstream news media started highlighting racism, white supremacy over and over and over. And that was right after Occupy Wall Street. And so the theory is that they saw because the Tea Party was upset about the Wall Street, and then they had the lefties on Occupy Wall Street. They were upset about Wall Street and what the government was bailing them out, and they had come together on this idea. And so the establishment had to figure out a way to divide people again, and they did it through planting all these stories of racism and using racism and white supremacy. And so it didn't really come from the ground up.
Whose theory is this, Jimmy? Just out of curiosity here, whose theory is it? What theory are you talking? The theory goes that after Occupy Wall Street, they planted a bunch of stories about race and white supremacy, and manufactured George Floyd, manufactured Ferguson. Like, what are you trying to say? And who is they, Jimmy?
This isn't something, just like the trans issue. I think that came from BlackRock, and that came from.
The trans issue came from BlackRock? Jimmy, we exist. We've been here the whole time. Much like Sam Reich.
From the top down to divide us, and the same thing. Would you agree that that's where this coming from, or do you have a different?
Jimmy Dore is one of the dumbest motherfuckers, okay, in this space. And it is shocking to me that he gets... Brianna Joy Gray, just like 2 days ago, was like, Jimmy Dore was right about her in relation to like an AOC video. Like, I don't think you can call yourself a leftist and also like fuck with Jimmy Dore. Not possible. That is a level of dissonance that is unacceptable.
For an idea.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting theory. I basically agree. I certainly don't.
That's Matt Walsh is just like, that's an interesting theory. It's pretty crazy, but interesting.
I agree. It didn't come from the ground up. This is a top-down situation here. It kind of filters down from these institutions, government, media, academia, filters down to the general population. I do think that, yeah, kind of ironically, Barack Obama's election probably is one of the main reasons why we're experiencing a lot of the racial strife we're experiencing right now, because now I was not an Obama voter, but you would think that
is he gonna blame Obama made the country racist? Is that gonna be his argument? His argument: Obama made us racist.
Greatest evidence that there is no systemic racism in America anymore is when you elect a black man. Like, if a black man can make it all the way to the very top of the system, voted there by the people, then that's really good evidence, you would think, that systemic racism is not an issue anymore.
Oh, okay. So no, Obama did defeat racism.
Which, of course, it is evidence of that. But then I think you had people on the left who were worried about that and said, well, okay, that's going to take this off the table now as a means of control and manipulation, and we can't have that. So they had to double down on the racism stories. And it wasn't long after, I think it was BLM came along as a movement in, I think, like 2013 or so. So it wasn't long after Obama's election, certainly after his reelection. And I think that's what it was. Like, they couldn't allow America to say, okay, well, we still have a lot of issues, but systemic racism really isn't, it's not an issue anymore. Like, we could cross that off the list and focus on other stuff. But I think,
yeah, because we can't do multiple things at one time. America, as we all know, America can only do one thing at a time.
I think a lot of these people didn't want that to happen. They couldn't allow it to happen. So
Who's paying these people? Well, Matt Walsh is paid by, I believe, fracking billionaires. Fracking billionaires fund Daily Wire. And Jimmy Dore was funded by RT for a bit, and then was funded by, or also
Black
the Young
man
Turks.
president. Racism no present no more. Miam Veri SMRT Matt Walsh.
Lady Raincloud, thank you for the $5 dono. And true, and also, we are now 2 points towards our 30-point goal to end this segment.
Had to go looking for racism, and they're looking for it in an increasingly desperate ways and finding it more and more in places where it obviously doesn't exist.
I mean, I'm not naive. I know racist people, right? I mean, I
Interesting. Go on.
come from the south side of Chicago, but I don't think it's anywhere near the problem that they want to make. Just like the rest of the country, I think that problem has been receding, and that people it's not the problem they make it out to be. But there
this red brown alliance, man, it's crazy.
is you really reveal this in the movie, that there is this this cottage industry of not even of everybody, you getting their DEI certified cars, so now I can go out and teach DEI. And
you can go out and teach DEI without one of those cards, Jimmy. The DEI certification just helps you sell yourself. It helps you promote yourself. Like, that's you can still do that. What are you talking about? Do you think like there's the DEI police are gonna stop you and where's your license? I don't have a license to practice DEI. You're coming with us. You're gonna get life. Blam blam blam. Like, what do you mean, dog?
And I was surprised to see that. Like, I didn't realize
the red brown alliance is the like fashy. Yeah, it's fash comms, the Nazbols. Famously, Hitler killed the red portion when the Night of the Long Knives in Nazi Germany. The Browns were the brown shirts. They became the SS. Yeah, red fash.
What a money-making endeavor it is to hyper-focus on racism and people's race and inject it everywhere. Was that surprising to you to find that out, how much money there was in this?
Yeah, a little bit. And one thing we do in the film, you'll see when you watch it, that we even put up on the screen the amount of money we paid these people to appear in the film.
That was amazing.
And in some cases, it's going to be a lot more than you would have expected.
Way more.
Yeah, and which is, it's an interesting thing that, and we don't hide from the fact that we paid them to be in it. Now they didn't, like, it's not scripted. They didn't. It's all real. But we said to them we want to talk about race, and you would think that they care so deeply about this issue, they'd be happy to talk about it, and they wouldn't need to be paid for it. But
I mean, it's their job to talk about it, Matt. I mean, like, hey, Matt, if you care so deeply about your conservative values, why are you paid to talk about it on your show? If you care about it so much, why aren't you doing it for free? That's your that's your dumb point right now.
But they do need to be paid. Which kind of shows that there is all that money in it. Why is there money in it? Well, I think.
Hey, Matt, were you paid to make that movie? Were you paid to appear in the Am I Racist film? If you cared so much about it, why did you take a check?
It's like, in a way, it's similar to why there's a lot of money in medicine, in that people will pay a lot to be cured. And
yeah.
Now with medicine, hopefully it's like a real cure, a real treatment, although not always. But with the DEI grifters, they're selling a fake cure for a disease they basically invented. They tell people, well, you're racist, you're inherently racist, and here's what you could do to treat that illness.
Yeah, because you have biases, Matt. Like, you have internal biases that are derived from the society around you. And those biases lead you to make different decisions than what you would make if you didn't have those biases, which can negatively impact some groups of people in a lot of ways that are far-reaching and very influential. Like I don't know, there in certain parts of the country, you can grow up and never as a white person and never see a black person, despite living in a city that is predominantly black. And that is possible only because of the society you live in having a very long and embedded history of redlining, a practice that denied black people housing in certain parts of cities and resulted in the black side of town, or the often referred to as the wrong side of the tracks. And like, that is a problem, right? Because then you start seeing, well, all these black areas are impoverished, and you start associating unconsciously poverty with blackness, and then you realize crime happens a lot, and the crime happens a lot because of the poverty, but then you start to associate crime with blackness. And so this is just one example of how you can, in a society that has, a racialized past, but then has made things equal on the books, you can still have these problems on a social level. And then those problems, if you have this association between blackness, poverty, crime, if you have that association and you don't have it articulated in your head, and you suddenly become someone's the hiring manager, well, the association poverty, crime, black, that can sink into your head and unconsciously affect your hiring decisions. So if you have like a qualified black applicant and a qualified white applicant, you might choose, the white applicant because of the biases in your head, rather than evaluating, between these two, who would be the actual pick. I mean, they both seem kind of white. You might just default to the white option. And that is really, really bad, actually. Because then you have created an entire, management class, and middle management, upper management, and, coworker class of people that is discriminating along racial lines. And that discrimination can also occur within black communities, where black communities start associating blackness with poverty and crime. And then if they ascend to like a managerial position where they're making hiring choices, they might also replicate that, because the victims of systemic oppression can also internalize that and play a role in replicating it. And so, often a freeway or train tracks can be a dividing line in a city. Yeah, it's almost like we didn't just fall out of a coconut tree and we exist in the context of all that was and came before us. Yeah, true. Mm-hmm. I know this seems like an insane theory, but I think Matt Walsh might be on something right now. It's possible. I feel like he's in studio with Jimmy Dore, and I feel like Jimmy has a bit of a drinking problem, but...
And they could charge kind of the sky's the limit. They could charge any amount of money because they got people who are scared and like, well, I don't want to be racist. Cure me. But then, of course,
Well, no. DEI consultants aren't hired by people. Random people don't hire DEI consultants. Businesses, corporations hire DEI consultants. Okay? And why do businesses do that? Well, there are two main reasons. Number one, they want to get the most work and the most productivity out of their employees and potential employees that they possibly can. because their goal is getting as much productivity as possible to make as much money as possible. That's what a corporation does. And then number 2, they want to avoid getting sued. They want to avoid expensive lawsuits. This is why HR exists. HR is not your friend. HR exists to protect the company from lawsuits and legal liability. So, all I'm saying is, normal people aren't hiring DEI consultants. That's corporations. For very obvious reasons.
Sad irony is that after they give you the cure and you've already paid the money, then they tell you that, oh, by the way, you're still racist because you're still white and you're never going to not be racist. I asked Robin DiAngelo this in the film, and she says that, you know, in any given moment, you can be more racist or less racist as a white person, but you can never be not racist. That's not an option. Which, of course, I know for myself, I hear that and I think, well, like, no, I can be not racist. Like, I'm not racist. I actually am not. Being racist.
Man, I love that slip of the tongue there.
But you can never be not racist. That's not an option. Which, of course, I know for myself, I hear that and I think, well, like, no, I can be not racist. Like,
I hear that and I say, I can be not racist. Thanks, Matt. He could be, under the right circumstances.
I'm not racist. I actually am not. Being racist means that you hate people of other races or you think they're inferior. That's what racism is. And if you don't have those feelings in your heart about other races, then congratulations, you're not racist. You might still be a very flawed person. We all are, but you're not racist. Like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. But again, they can't allow you to say that because then that makes them irrelevant, and they can't tolerate that, certainly.
Let me show this.
Man, the lack of curiosity Jimmy Dore has about any of this is insane to me.
Next clip. This is. I'm so interested. So you went to what do they call this that you went to?
This is a session. It's kind of a support group for white people who are struggling with their white grief, and I think what they're grieving is their whiteness and the fact that they have privilege, and kind of just grieving because you're white, you're a bad person, and that's what they're grieving. So they all sit around in a circle, very like AA style. And there's this woman who's there to talk them through it. And I was able to attend one of these sessions and did my best to take part and, go on the journey with these people.
Yeah, it is a lot of.
Jimmy Dore is incredible because he just takes people at face value, right? Like, Jimmy Dore, just like, oh yeah, you, Matt Walsh, a paid propagandist by a billionaire fracking industry. Yeah, you went here to engage with these people in good faith. Oh yeah, you tried your best to sit and learn. Have you ever interacted with or seen Matt Walsh do what he does? He never engages in good faith with anything. Ever. That's kind of his thing.
Of white guilt, especially.
Jimmy is a moron, but I think on a certain level, it's also that Jimmy Dore is just a lazy goon. He's just a lazy flunky at the end of the day. He's lazy, he's incurious, and he just wants to make money. That's it. That's it.
The scene right before this, the white guy says, I'm an asshole. He calls himself an asshole. And it makes me laugh. It made me laugh so hard. But how did you...
It's a comedy. I laughed.
I was wondering as I was watching the film, how did you get your cameras in there? How did they allow you to come film?
Yeah, they all. That's one question people have. It's like, well, was this secret? Was this hidden camera? It's not hidden camera. They all know that there's cameras in the room. They all signed waivers agreeing to be filmed, and that's it. Now, why?
But the thing, me, Sunrider, I totally get your comment. which I think is great. I'm going to read it. Like, of course you can't solve racism on your own. That's the point of it being systemic. You're not going there to be cured of racism because you can't cure racism. But that's the issue, is that what they're doing is they're trying to say, oh, racism isn't a systemic issue because systemic issues regarding race have been solved for a decade now because of Obama. So all we have left is individual racism, and the people talking and spreading systemic racism now are white people who are profiting off of a racial scare. You know? Like they're trying to make an entirely new conspiracy around DEI, you know? They want to make DEI the new critical race theory.
Are they happy that this is what the film ended up being? Probably not. And why would they still appear? Like, why didn't they ask more questions? Why weren't they more skeptical? I don't know. Part of it is at least for the people that we paid, like, we gave them the money and they had the dollar signs in their eyes, and maybe they threw caution to the wind, and they're probably regretting it now, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay, so let's play this and we'll talk about it.
White participants in the group feel that there's something in themselves that they have to overcome, when all that's being requested of you is that you be. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? How are
Sorry
you?
about that.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, he came in late. Cool.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remind me of your name again.
Steven.
Steven? Yeah? Okay.
Did he forget what fake name he was using? Unironically, I feel like he stuttered not because of an acting choice, but because he genuinely forgot what his name was.
You want to come up?
Come up?
Yeah. Do you want to come up and share anything?
Sure. What do you want me to share?
Whatever's on your
I
mind.
just want to know that, like, my physical safety and yours and everybody else's here is okay.
Why would your physical safety not be okay? Did I miss something?
I don't feel comfortable.
What? Can you guys catch me up to speed on what's going on here?
You don't need to be caught up. We're going to be silent.
Is it because I said I had 17 black friends? It might have been 15. It depends on how you count them.
They're just all uncomfortable.
I would really appreciate it if you left so that the people who actually want to be here and deserve to be here can get what they need.
I do want to be
Can
here.
you please leave?
I would like it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
Come with me.
Well,
Thank you.
I didn't consent to be touched.
I'm not offering to touch you. I'm offering to walk you out. Will you walk with me and I'll answer your questions?
Okay. I'll admit it. My name's not Steven. Maybe you already knew that. My name is Matt Walsh.
We know.
Oh, yeah, no, they figured they busted him.
I was here on this journey that I'm just starting, but I see that I'm not wanted.
If you were on your journey, then you would have told us who you were, your real name, but you didn't.
Are you saying I
Please
needed a
leave.
better disguise? Is that what you?
I don't know, maybe. But you can figure that out as you walk out the door.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you so much. I really had a transformative experience myself, and my pronouns are he, him.
He wants so badly to be like a Sacha Baron Cohen, but he's so bad at this. He's so bad. Like Sacha Baron Cohen's bits, like, were funny because they communicated something about American society. And in this bit, he's just creeping out a room full of people. He's creeping out a room full of people because, like, they are there for a reason. Like, they're there to do something as a group, you know, and talk about issues with, like, you know, sincerity. And, like, Matt Walsh as an entity is incapable of being sincere. The most sincere Matt Walsh gets is, like, burning books. Like, that's about it. Like, when he's on his video camera, you know, saying, "Oh man, how did the Nazis do this?" and he's really struggling to light a book on fire, like, that's him being sincere. You know, like, or, you know, when he's writing an op-ed for The Blaze talking about how he wouldn't report if his son raped his daughter to the police. You know, like, that's him being sincere. But people in that group clearly knew that he wasn't there to be sincere about it. And, like, that's kind of the core of, like, Sacha Baron Cohen, is that he, as a character, can connect sincerely with people. But part of the issue with this entire concept as a joke, as a bit, right, would unravel if he were to sincerely engage with it. Nah, Johnny Crash, it's not that I'm too emotional to get it. It's just that, like, the joke would fall apart if he were to actually engage, which is the core of what makes humor like this work. You have to be able to connect with the people there and then, like, make a joke scenario out of that around that actual connection, you know? Like, that was what made Borat good. The parts of that are good about Borat involve sincere connection with folks. And Matt Walsh is just not capable of that.
1410 transmit on tech 2, what's your message?
I did everything I could to fit in. I opened up. I was raw and emotional. I told them about my black friends.
Yeah, but the thing is, even if he was just Matt Walsh, if he sincerely engaged in the process, they wouldn't have been creeped out. You know, like, that's all I'm saying, is that this is just using this group of people to further the story of the movie and not actually like a bit. They would have kicked... They knew who he was, but, like, again, they didn't kick him out at the beginning. If he just honestly engaged with the process and with those people and doing what they did, I think they would have been okay with it. Like, I've been in leftist circle, they literally knew who he was. Yeah, but he came back. That the clip we're seeing is him coming back after he's already engaged and interacted with them. Like, that's... Did you miss that part? Like, he's already been there. They already knew who he was. And if he was actually engaging instead of trying to farm clips for his movie, which is what he was doing, like, I think they would have been happy to have him there for the entire time. Because part of these types of exercises is honesty. And if you can't sincerely engage with it, then, like, there's no point. And you ruin it for everyone else. They waited for a reason to kick him out? Well, again, I think I just explained why... This is the equivalent of, like, going to therapy, but then just lying to your therapist. You know? Like, do you think going to therapy and then lying to your therapist, like, is good? Do you think your therapist would want to continue working with you if you lied the entire time? Do you think if you went to like grief counseling and just lied the entire time, and then the group found out that like you were lying to them, that they would feel comfortable and want you there? Johnny Crash, there's a difference between physically unsafe and feeling unsafe to talk about like personal issues. You know? Like, genuine question. Would you feel safe talking about your deepest screw-ups in front of a group of people if you knew one of them was lying? Right? Because, like, no. The conversation is built on mutual trust. If you had a guy who habitually lied in your workplace, would you want to be friends with that person? Would you want to tell them about your personal life in detail? No, you'd call him a right bastard. You'd call him a bitch. You'd complain about him as you like kick back like a drink. At work, yeah, if somebody's lying compulsively at work, they get fired. Yeah. You get fired for the lying. You see? You see how that works? If you lie to your wife about where you were at night and she finds out about it, is she going to be happy with you? Is she going to feel safe around you? Is she going to trust you more? Do you think if you lie to your wife, she's going to trust you more? You said they would want him to stay if he told the truth. I think they would be willing to engage in like whatever process or whatever like conversation they have in this setting if he stayed and was actually honest and sincere about his engagement. Yeah. Because here's the thing. This type of stuff, these types of sessions, they go on with all kinds of people. And the people who run them, and much like therapists, are willing to work with all kinds of folks wherever they are in like their ideology or what they think of the world. Okay? You just said they would be uncomfortable. They'd be uncomfortable because of the lying. They're uncomfortable. Like, do you not understand that? Like, filming them under false pretenses while they're expected to open up about their lives. Again, Johnny Crash, engage with what I'm saying. Is your wife happy if you lie to her? And if the next thing you post in chat isn't an engagement with my question, you're just going to get banned. So, oh, damn, Johnny Crash, that is not actually an engagement with what I said. Goodbye. You know, I can't help people who are too like acoustically illiterate to actually engage with very basic points. You know, some people were dropped too many times as a baby, or not loved enough by their mothers, and you know, sometimes people in chat are that right bastard that's at work that lies all the time. You know, like that's sometimes that's what you get. Like, the thing is, if you're there and you know who this guy is, but he's engaging in sincere, like, a sincere level of discourse, I think that they would be willing to have him there the entire time. Because they're not trying to hide anything. That's the thing. That being said, if they weren't aware they were going to be filmed coming into this, yeah, that's pretty fucked up, actually. But my guess is they knew they were going to be filmed. They saw Matt Walsh. Some of them maybe recognized him. But it was when he started being a disingenuous piece of shit that they wanted him to leave. Like, it's not really that hard to understand, right? Well, yeah, the entire and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, Uncle Gumbald. Walsh is financially incentivized to not engage because the entire premise of his movie would fall apart if he sincerely engaged in any of these conversations, you know? The trick here is to appear as if he's engaging in good faith to, you know, the most knuckle-dragging and brain-dead of conservative viewers, while being incredibly condescending and insincere. It is the conservatives' misunderstanding of Borat.
It was no use. They rejected me, and they called the police. My mere presence in the room caused them pain. I'll never be accepted if I look like this. If they know...
Again, it wasn't because you looked like that. In fact, I think that lady at the end, like, kind of explained that to you, like...
know that I'm Matt Walsh. I'll always be an outsider. I need to go deeper undercover. A whole new identity. If I want to be an ally, I need to look like one. Like someone who is...
Yeah, Foxbat, that might be a better distinction. Sacha Baron Cohen isn't engaging in good faith, but Borat the character is. Yeah. I think that's a decent distinction. But, like, Borat the character connects with them on a human level. It's sincere. The good faith sincerity of Borat is what makes the movie work.
Progressive, tolerant, enlightened. Let me think. Have I ever met anyone like that? Ah, yes. Yes, I have.
What is a woman?
Why do you ask the question?
Am I racist? Rated PG-13.
White.
So, I can't get over the guilt all those people have in that meeting. It was really, it's comical.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially watching it back in the room, it doesn't feel as comical. It feels quite sad, actually. Because that was and what you see in the clip there is the end of what it ended up being the end of the workshop.
Yeah.
But there's a whole scene before that where I'm there and I'm interacting, and in real time, it was actually like an hour and a half that we were there. And yeah, I mean,
yeah, no one would ever, again, no one would ever recognize him in that. And you might say, oh, but that's the point. They would still recognize him. But, like, you understand how that relates to the point I just tried to make with Johnny Crash, right? Like, it doesn't help. It does, like,
You go around the circle, and all these people are telling their stories of revealing just this guilt and grief that they carry around with them.
Like, this is sociopathic, right? Like, Yeah, you're sitting there and these people are just sharing all these intensely personal stories about their lives, and then it gets to be my turn and I say I have 17 black friends. And like, yeah, they're uncomfortable because they're sharing personal stories that they're here to talk about and learn about, and you're kind of shitting on the process. Like, a Sacha Baron Cohen character would engage with this process, and like other people in that group would show sympathy and empathy for him, and like he would play it off in like a like being confused. I need to learn more about this phenomenon. Like, there's a way you could use this type of scenario in a funny way. But Matt Walsh, because he's not willing to sincerely engage with any of this, any aspect of it, cannot actually achieve that goal.
All the time, which, yeah, we can. I think mockery of these ideas is appropriate. Obviously, that's what we're doing here. And it's an effective tool, I think. But it is also just sad that these all, because what I want, if we weren't making a movie, what I would want to turn to those people and say is like, guys, you're okay. You don't need to be here doing this. You're fine. You're not, none of you are racist in this.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm sure being told, hey, you're all fine, get over it, would definitely work. And that's why people go to these things.
Room. You wouldn't be like, you're all fine, you're okay, just go live your life and don't worry about this anymore. And
yeah, it's like how I tell all my friends who are depressed, just stop being depressed, you big old dummy. You big depressed bitch. Just go live your life. Have you tried yoga?
If I had said that to them, that would have been like the end of the movie way too quick. But
yeah.
But that's the, that's the truth.
Well, there was the I don't know if it...
Yeah, exactly, Amber Brains. This is probably a serious therapeutic support group. Like, they're there to discuss issues, whether Matt Walsh feels that they're a big deal or not. They feel like big deals for these people, and that's why they're there.
It was at the dinner party, or maybe it was in this meeting. There was a white woman. She said she was married to a black man, and she said he talked too loud sometimes, and so when she's asked him to not talk so loud, felt like she was being racist.
Yeah, I think that was Race to Dinner, and that was
it.
And that was another one where they go around the table, and we have some of this in the film. You can't. Most of it obviously doesn't make it in because it's a 90-minute film, but. Another thing where they go around the table and they ask people, in this case, it's all women at the Race to Dinner, give us examples of racism in your own life. And they all are ready, they're on the ball with examples of being racist. And I'm listening to it and I'm like, none of these, none of that is racism. Again, you guys are all fine. Well, you're not fine. You obviously have issues. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. But your issue is not that you're racist. But it's just for some people, this kind of emotional and psychological manipulation is very, very potent. And I hope that this movie can be a part of kind of deprogramming some of that to some extent.
Did you ever see that interview that Morgan Freeman did with Mike Wallace?
Yeah.
And he says, I don't want a Black History Month. Do you have a Jewish History Month? Do you want a White History Month? Do you want... And he said, then Mike Wallace says, well, how are we going to fight racism? And he said, stop talking about it. I'll stop calling you a white man. You stop calling me a black. We'll just call each other human beings. I think I'm paraphrasing, but
I never saw that interview.
That's kind of like the message you found when you went to the where the rubber meets the road. You interviewed black people, just regular, not a professional managerial class. I remember you asked him, how do we get over racism? And he said, just love each other. And you like, could it be really that easy?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that was.
Yeah, just love each other. Because, people have had such consistent ideas about what it means to love one another. I just like I don't know, right? When you come from like a conservative Christian worldview, right? How you can say, "Oh, just love each other." That's the answer. Have you ever thought about like what Christian love looks like? Like, to some people, Christian love is beating your kid. To some people, Christian love is, saying, "Oh, well, love the sinner, hate the sin," while picking up rocks to put in a pail to throw at queer kids. To some people, Christian love is, frankly, hating people of other religions. And sometimes people of other religions can be, you're Catholic and someone else is Presbyterian. Like it is. And this isn't unique to Christian love, but I'm using Christianity and the phrase Christian love here because I want to demonstrate how love can take a lot of different, extraordinarily toxic and harmful forms. And when we are not careful about our language, when we aren't actually prescribing meaningful solutions, and we instead rely on platitudes like, "Oh, we just gotta love each other, man." Like, well, then that opens the door for a lot of interpretive ability, doesn't it?
And that was Milton, the mechanic down in New Orleans. We went down to New Orleans. It was a great, it was just a very nice,
Salt of
kind
the earth kind of guy.
soul, yeah. And it was interesting talking to him. Again, it's, this is probably a 30-minute conversation. Only a little bit can make it in the film. But he's just so outside of most of the stuff I'm throwing at him about DEI and systemic racism and all. It's not a part of his world at all. He's not thinking about any of that ever.
Yeah, because he doesn't watch conservative propaganda networks, man. Like, if you're not watching conservative propaganda networks right now, the average American doesn't think about DEI. Okay? The average American doesn't think about critical race theory. The average American doesn't think about any of this shit. This is all like manufactured like buzzwords to sell right-wing like conspiracy narratives. Like that. Yeah, most people you talk to probably fall into that camp.
Which is a success story, because this is all, as we discover in the film, he's an immigrant. He moved here. So we should consider it a success story. He came here. He's got a job. He's a contributing member of the community. He doesn't feel like he experiences racism. He's not focused on it. He's just living his life. We should be able to call that like an American success story. And it is, except that these grifter types, they look at that and they
drops of rain turn into a raging river. Blessings on your house. L.
Oh, Jaeger Larson, thank you for the $11 and some cent donos. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so goddamn much. We're now 4 subs towards skipping this.
There's a problem to fix. Like, they want to take that guy. They want to take Milton and say, no, hold on. You stop being so happy and well-adjusted. You should have problems. I'll tell you what they are. And that's what they want to do.
So what do you say about the people who bring up, which is an argument I often make, that the criminal justice system is systemically racist because, the crime bill, put people...
Oh, man. Jimmy, are you about to start pushing back on Matt Walsh at the 25-minute mark of your interview?
In prison. So if you did, so black communities did crack, white communities did cocaine, you got much higher sentences for crack. And now they are much overrepresented in the prison population than their population numbers. And what do you say to that? What's your argument back to that?
Yeah, I would say I don't. We could talk historically about. Obviously, everyone acknowledges that.
Oh my God. If you just asked him an actual question, if Jimmy Dore was at all interested in pushing this guy, he would crack like the most delicate egg imaginable.
In the course of American history, black people have been discriminated against, and there has been racism, obviously, in society.
I'm actually, guys, I'm actually shocked. Jimmy Dore wasn't even trying to push back on Matt, and Matt is just out here. It's crazy.
You can go all the way back to slavery existed as an institution in this country. We all know it existed as an institution across the whole world too, by the way, but it did happen in this country. Right now, though, I certainly do not think that there's.
Well, yeah, all these bad things happened in the past, but like we're good now.
Systemic racism, systemic anti-black racism anywhere. It's not something, because systemic means it's embedded in the law. It's in policy. It means that like there are laws and policies that specifically target and disadvantage you if you are black.
It does look like Matt Walsh may have had like half a beer and is now a little tipsy.
And that doesn't exist, which is why no one can give a specific example. Like, give me the policy that says if you're black, this bad thing's going to happen to you. No.
That's because there aren't that many on the books today that say, if you're black, you can't blah. Okay? Because it shifted from, if you're not black, you can't blah, to, well, if you're of a certain socioeconomic class, we need to maintain the character of the neighborhood. We can't, low-income housing will lower the property values. It turned into relying on discriminating along the lines history has drawn, the red lines, as it were, due to the redlining policies.
Now, you can find it in the reverse. There are groups that are targeted. This is what affirmative action was.
Matt hasn't even answered why there's a disparity between incarceration times between white and black equal drug crimes. Well, Virillion, that would be because Jimmy Dore doesn't really care about pushing him on this issue. If Matt Walsh was talking with any leftist creator worth their salt, they would immediately have followed up with that. Like the disparity between like people incarcerated for marijuana use, despite the fact that like white and black groups like widely use marijuana at the same rates. Like he's not gonna talk about that unless someone asks him about it directly.
For so long, where we are going to exclude and disadvantage you based on your race, but that was not targeting black people. That was white and then Asian. There's nothing like that happening in the reverse, and even in the criminal justice system, I think that yes,
Oh, by the way, the numbers are now in from the end of affirmative action in elite schools. All mysteriously saw a bump in white enrollment, and most mysteriously of all, a drop in Asian admissions. Oh, that's crazy. Despite one of the major claims of the lawsuit being that Asian students were being unfairly harmed by affirmative action. Yeah. Who could have seen this coming? Fun fact, I used to live in an old apartment building, and I pulled a copy of the deed, and the deed for the building still to this day states that black people and Jews are expressly forbidden from living there. Those deed terms were rendered illegally, obviously, as shown by me, a Jew, living there, but the deeds themselves haven't all been updated. Literally, my partner was looking at buying a house in a neighborhood. I'm trying to be careful with my language. In a neighborhood like around the Twin Cities area. And the deed to the house had language about how it was not to be sold to black or brown people, like because of the character of the neighborhood. And of course, those laws were outdated, but like not that long ago, the house was built in like the 80s. like, yeah. Oh yeah, Brutus Magnuson. I live in the Twin Cities area.
Are, as you say, black people are overrepresented in prisons, but you know, especially in urban communities in the cities, the violent crime rate is what it is, and especially young black males commit a disproportionate amount of particularly violent crime, which is
true. Homeowner associations come from that, like, it went from being like an on the books, like, you can't sell this property to black people, to well, we have a homeowner association. We're here to keep up the visual character of the neighborhood.
probably why you find more of them in prison. It's, I wish that wasn't the case, but it just simply is. We all know it. And then we kind of look at and then we look at the prison, at the incarceration rate, and we're told that we're supposed to see, well, this is totally out of balance.
Dude, he's rambling and reeling so hard from the lightest question possibly asked of him.
Well, it's only out of balance if all of the races are committing these crimes at an equal clip. So you have to prove that first, and then you'd have a case that the incarceration rate.
Well, Matt, why do you think different racial groups would be committing crimes at different rates? I wonder, Matt, why do you think different racial groups would be committing crimes at different rates? Because, again, God, if you had an interviewer worth their salt, okay, you could corner him in an instant. All you have to ask to own this guy in the marketplace of ideas would be, hey, there are really only two possibilities what you're laying out here. Number one is that different racial groups have different socioeconomic positions. As a result of, historical conditions, and that leads to different outcomes. It leads to different kinds of crimes. It leads to different rates of criminal activity. Okay. And you can either say this is correlated with, like, material conditions like poverty, which is what I would say the answer is, or it's genetic. It's an inherent characteristic of those racial groups. And the interesting corner he gets backed into here is that if he acknowledges it's due to the material conditions, right? Well, then you have to acknowledge that there are systemic issues in the distribution of those material conditions, right? And alternatively, if he says it's an inherent racial characteristic, well, then he's just outing himself as a classic, like, racist. Like, you are a eugenicist, Nazi racist. So, like, those are, I think either you prove his premise fundamentally flawed, or you out him as, like, a hood-wearing Klan member, and either is a win, really.
Is the result of systemic racism. But what we see from all of the available crime statistics is that that's not the case. That's that all the races don't commit crimes at equal rates. And
why do you think that is, Matt?
So you'd expect to find that reflected in the incarceration rates too.
So yeah, just one. I would push back on that a little about, so after they passed the Civil Rights Act and everybody was supposed to be equal.
Man, if Jimmy Dore had any amount, any shred, guys, this guy used to do a show called Aggressive Progressives. Aggressive Progressives for TYT. And he's like, just to push back a little bit. Like, Jimmy, he's just served up his entire ass on a platter for you. Okay? Like, what are you doing?
Equal, then Nixon started his war on drugs, which targeted over-policed black neighborhoods. The CIA's bringing crack into their and so they would break up families that way. They'd over-incarcerate. They would take the black male out of the house, put him in prison because of these drug. So I think if we got rid of the drug war,
but also like, if the thing about that Spaghetti Snakes is if he tries to go the cultural issue, like, oh, it's just black culture that's the issue, right? Well, where does the black culture come from? Comes from their material conditions, like, and you can get embroiled into an argument about that, but ultimately, like, the culture comes from the material conditions and like society, and that is a result of systemic inequalities, So like either way, I think like you can corner him in that if you are actually interested in trying to engage with him in this way.
or was, I think, really much more injurious to the, black and brown community, and that'd be my one point that I would push back on that. If we could that was intentional.
1350
and then there's there's the for-profit prison system, and then you have someone like Kamala Harris, who's black, who kept people in prison so they could be used for their slave labor and stuff like that. So even when a black person's in charge of it, go ahead.
Yeah. Well.
Wow. Well done, Jimmy. You're scintillating as always.
One thing I'd say to that, though, is that I think like one of the major problems now in communities of all races, but in the black community in particular, is
man, boy, do I want to hear this man tell me what the main problem is in the black community.
It's more of like an undercarceration problem where you've got violent criminals. You have these woke
Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. That if you're a Jimmy Dore fan and you are a leftist of any kind, and you just heard Jimmy Dore's guest that he's basically been filleting this entire time, says the main problem with the African American community is the under-incarceration of them. Fuck right off. That is the biggest red flag. This is your off-ramp. This is like the last one, guys. This is the last off-ramp from Jimmy Dore. If you heard that and you are not immediately bolting for the door, if you are not immediately waking up, you are lost. There is no leftism that you believe in. You're just a racist. Or a guy who is very okay with people being racist.
DAs who are letting violent criminals out or not arresting them, letting them out, arresting them again, letting them out, get second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth strike. And what does that end up happening? It's like, well, those violent criminals end up, they don't, they usually stay in those communities and target the innocent members of those communities. So like, to me, that's, if we want to talk about the criminal justice system, that's our major problem right now, is that you have violent.
Oh, so we should maybe like reform our prison system to reduce recidivism rates, hey, we could look at other countries where they have extraordinarily low recidivism rates and emulate their prison structures, kinder, more effective prisons that focus on recidivism rates being lowered instead of just putting them in a fucking cage for years and expecting them to somehow get better because of that.
Dangerous people who are being allowed to terrorize communities basically at will. And then the woke DAs, essentially, I guess their strategy is, well, we're going to let you keep committing crimes until you do something so heinous that even we have no choice but to put you in prison for at least a little bit of time. But when they do that heinous thing, like, someone's going to be the victim of that. Some old lady walking down the street is going to be the one who gets randomly stabbed to death by the hobo, you know, and it's an awful thing.
Do you think that yeah, I see those stories too. I feel the same outrage you do over stuff like that when they're letting violent people out.
Yeah, except that they don't just let violent people out unless they've served their time in prison.
Because the prisons are filled, because we're the largest penal colony in America, in the world, the United States. We incarcerate more people. We have 5% of the world's population. 25% of the incarcerated people are in the United States in prison. So do you think it's because we incarcerated so many nonviolent drug offenders that we don't have?
Jimmy, you're the dumbest motherfucker.
Any place to put them, or what? I mean, why do we have so many people?
I don't know that it's a matter of room, because if you listen to the woke DAs when they're justifying this stuff, and they might say a little bit about the over incarceration, there's no room, but like that's not their main reason. Their main reason is that they will give themselves is well, this is about restorative justice and all these buzzwords. So for them, no matter how much room's in the prison, what they're saying is, you know, we just don't believe in, like, doctrinally, they don't believe in justice. They don't believe in.
Serious question: why do conservatives have such a deep disdain for homeless people? Is it because they aren't contributing members of society? I mean, that's part of it. The other part of it is Banana Brains, is that they are viewed as not just financial failures, they are also viewed as moral failures by conservatives. For a conservative, there's this kind of capitalist ideology of you should have succeeded. If you just worked harder, if you just tried more, you wouldn't be homeless. You wouldn't be where you are. And now you're homeless and you're a drain on all of us. And you're smelly and gross and you make me uncomfortable. And it's this, it doesn't matter if the homeless person they're looking at or considering isn't smelly or isn't gross. It's viewed as a profound moral failing. But Banana Brains, while it is true that capitalism is literally what made them homeless, most conservatives don't view it that way. They have been trained to view homelessness as a symptom of laziness, and that, well, if that person was simply tried more, they wouldn't be homeless. If that person simply applied themselves, used some of that good old American ingenuity, they could pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And it doesn't matter that you literally cannot pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That's physically impossible, and was, in fact, a piece of socialist propaganda to make fun of the fact that you cannot pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But capitalists took that phrase and now say it unironically. Oh, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. A thing you literally cannot do. Yeah, the other aspect is that homelessness can bring down property values, and conservatives hate that because then it feels like a personal attack against them. Oh, I got you, Banana Brains. I got you. Yeah, there's like a whole I think it's like a Puritan ideology where, like, they're embedded in some of, like, the religious history of, like, America is, like, the idea that I think it's the Puritans. If you work hard enough and you find success, you are favored by God. And thus you are like proving your moral stature in the community by working hard and making a profit. Because then you can contribute more to the community and you are viewed as a more contributing member of the community, right? And that got really widely spread because a lot of Puritans made money, made like good money operating within this capitalist framework. And that kind of became associated with like, well, God wants you to be wealthy, and if you are truly his servant, you give everything to him, then he will reward you tenfold. And you give it a couple hundred years and you get a prosperity gospel, You get what the megachurches are preaching these days across America. And like that is something that has been, maybe de-religiositied and incorporated into the wider framework of how we treat capitalism and teach capitalism and understand capitalism. And it's weird. So how do they reconcile that with the fact that they should know of being that many homeless people became so due to external conditions like natural disaster, kicked out of the house, job, etc.? Well, the way they reconcile it in Puritan culture is that, well, God is showing that you don't have the appropriate moral character, that your wealth is commensurate with God's approval. And if you are rendered into a homeless state by natural disaster or circumstance, that's because God is showing that you really aren't moral. Secularized. Thank you, Lee Kestner. Yeah, you haven't been honoring thy father and thy mother enough, And so it is seen as like the payment for sin. God is castigating you. Gamer G says, "Yep, when my wife was almost homeless, her Puritan family said it was God punishing her." Yeah, no, like this ideology still exists. It's not among religious folks. Yeah. When my wife was homeless, her Puritan family said it was God punishing her. I took her in. We were only dating for a short bit. That's really sweet of you, but that's also just holy shit. Can't imagine having a kid, having them be in financial difficulty and becoming homeless and then saying, it's your fault. God's punishing you. Why do Christians accept charity then? Because when you're homeless or like in dire financial straits, it fucking sucks. Also, it's worth pointing out that many Christians and many people who grow up in that work ethic reject charity. Like they do not want to go to the church to ask for money. They do not want to be on welfare. That is all looked down upon. It's looked at as an even deeper moral failing. Like I might be homeless, but I still have my dignity kind of thinking, Now, would they have cognitive dissonance? Yeah. Yeah. But you can live with cognitive dissonance, None of this is true Christian. I mean, it's true Christian for a lot of Puritans. And by and large, a lot of the religious inheritance of America. Yeah, there is also sometimes, John Thomas, like the idea that, well, I'm charity for others is bad, but in my case, it's a special exception. Yeah. trust and believe, that's still an issue for me having grown up in a community like that. My fam wasn't like that, but the community was. Yeah, like especially if you're in a small town America, like and everyone knows everyone's business, taking like welfare or charity can seem like a real social failing, and it can lead to more ostracization from the community. Hey, McWiggin. Is this a bad time to say holy moly, hottie mommy, hi ooh woo? No, it's not a bad time. Also, I'm back on my exercise grind, and I'm going to look even better soon. Okay. We're gonna finish this up.
Making the bad guys pay for their crimes, especially if they're part of an improved victim group, demographic wise.
I mean, and Matt Walsh is kind of here exemplifying exactly what I'm talking about. You want to make the bad guys pay for their crimes, and who is the ultimate judge, arbiter, and executor of punishment, divine, just punishment? God, right? And so, well, if you suffer from homelessness, if you get struck down, if you are smote by circumstance, well, that's just God's, dealing out divine justice.
And so that's the reason they think that it's oppressive, I guess, to hold somebody accountable for things that we all agree are like terrible crimes that should be punished.
So now you're a self-described conservative, and I consider myself a liberal, but not modern day liberal. That they're not. They've turned their. So I'm for freedom of speech. I'm against censorship. I'm for bodily autonomy. Right. I'm always been anti-war. I'm for ending the wars, investing that money back here.
Wow, you're making you're really representing well for all of those points here, Jimmy, by inviting this guy on your show and showing him the time of his life.
I'm for, getting cleaning up the corruption inside a regulatory corporate capture of our all that stuff that Bobby Kennedy was saying at that Trump rally, right?
I'm for all that stuff, that Donald Trump is against. But, RFK said some nice things that I like, so, I'm a dipshit.
And he got a stadium full of Republican voters.
Jimmy Dore doesn't seem like he has a coherent ideology. That's because his ideology is for sale. He's willing to alter it for a price.
To cheer for all that stuff that I go one step further. I'm also for Medicare for all, right?
Zoomy dear, Walsh isn't there to challenge Jimmy. Walsh is there to promote his movie and be filleted by Jimmy for an hour.
No. How many of those things would you and I disagree on?
I think on the basic principles you just outlined, I think we would line up pretty well. I mean, we don't, we talk about bodily autonomy, for example. It depends on, is that going into abortion? I don't believe in abortion. But if you mean like
forced medical procedures,
right? We shouldn't force people to take vaccines. Like, I'm with you on that. Free speech, totally with you on that. And so I think there's a lot of alignment, and I do think between someone like you and me, there's probably almost certainly a lot more alignment between us than there would be if instead of me sitting here, it was Syra Rao, like one of the people from our film. If one of them was sitting here, I think you'd probably have less, I imagine, less in common with them. And on free speech, on free speech in particular, it's like, for me, people act like it's a complicated issue. I don't think it's all that complicated. I'm a simple man. Maybe I tend to simplify things, but I kind of think you have the right to share your opinion, period. And if it's an awful opinion, we can tell you that, which is not the same thing. Do you have the right to say literally anything you want all the time? No, of course not. You don't have the right to threaten to kill someone. You don't have the right to, defame someone and that sort of thing. But that's not an opinion. If you're expressing your opinion, your point of view, people should be free to do that and let it all out in the open. And we could, if someone has a repugnant opinion about something, we can expose that. So to me, it's like, it should be pretty simple.
Okay. All right. Well, You got to go. I appreciate you coming in. I love the movie. I thought it was, I thought you were sticking your chin out and doing it in a comedic way that often, I'm a comedian, and so
Yeah, you're a comedian too, right?
comedy often can help illuminate an issue better than anything, and I think it really does in this movie. So thanks for coming in. Nice to meet you, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Hey, come see us on tour being
Nice to meet you, buddy. I fucking hate Jimmy Dore, dude.